childhood friends who met in unfortunate circumstances create a gaming company together. Life happens, work happens, love happens, more life happens, and I have to say, on reflection, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, or is it Zevin, is pretty epic in like an everyday Odyssey kind of way. But there's a whiff of MFA style writing by numbers about this book, and I have no idea where it comes from because I've never done an MFA, nor do I have a BA. And I was kinda icked, just like very slightly, like an unpleasant smell in a park that you can just walk away from, with what I perceived to be a rustling of righteousness around an innocuous sentence or two that tangentially hinted at politics, but I know I'm sensitive to that shit. And it could well be intentional, as I read somewhere that Gabrielle, much easier to say, wanted to set this book in an era where gaming was born, I think. In which case, bravo, because she really did capture a zeitgeist, like whole. Now, with that out the way, let's begin. Okay, so for some reason, and I suspect it's the cover, I know I'm judging a book by its cover again. My general impression of Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow is that it's a bubblegum pink kind of book. A little bit Barbie, just a little bit Playmobil. And even having read it, I just can't dispel that impression. And here's my reasoning, or justification. It's epic. Okay, the story spans the functional lifespan of these characters, like in the Aeneid or something, and it doesn't pull its punches, because like real shit actually happens, but the language isn't filled with those sort of like Homeric epithets. You know, the thous, the wherefores, there are no dragons, the world doesn't end. And it's about gaming, and the culture surrounding it, which in my mind is just not a serious thing, because I'm old. So despite its content, for me, the candy floss packaging remains intact, and it's mostly due to my prejudice, I'll happily admit that, because it's just incongruous for me that something serious and real and adult can be written about in our everyday vernacular, or that kind of gaming vernacular. But man, does this all create an effect, and given how Gabrielle so competently constructs the narrative, I suspect maybe that this effect is intentional, which if it is the case, bravo again. But here's the real interesting thing. You know how in those old school epics, like not necessarily just the Virgils or the Shakespeares, but even in the Casablancas, Titanics, Hunger Games, and Harry Potters, isn't there just a real sense of a historical tide that give the unfolding of the individual dramas a sense of inevitability? Characters strive to impose their agency against destiny, and they're willed to act beyond themselves. Triumphs are that much more triumphant, the sacrifice is that much more heroic, and the loss is that much more tragic. And isn't that where the epicness comes from? But in Tomorrow, the characters only contend with matters of their own doing. There's no high-level perspective. The focus is all on the individuals, completely in their own context. So in that sense, Tomorrow really is a product of its time, and for its time. It's so FPS, first-person story. And somehow, Gabrielle still preserves that epicness, which is just mad, because she perfectly embodies the self-centeredness of the era she's writing about with the story and its perspective, while delivering on an almighty cosmic emotional payoff.